And welcome back. Now, while the Hawks are investigating the leak of matric exam papers, teams have also been deployed to inspect security systems in the different provinces. Mathematics paper 2 and physical science paper 2 were leaked just hours before learners could write those exams. And the Department of Basic Education has meanwhile vowed to protect the integrity of the rest of the exams. However, experts say that Umalusi, which is the Education Quality Assurance Council, should actually intervene to protect the integrity of the matric examinations. And joining us now is Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, who's the CEO of Umalusi. Dr. Rakometsi, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to your viewers.
It's by no means a new issue, but it's a very, very worrying one. But from your engagements with the Department of Basic Education, Dr. Rakometsi, what have you been able to establish about these leaks?
First of all, I need to indicate that Umalusi is deeply disappointed by the announcement made by the Department of Basic Education that physical science paper 2 has also been leaked. This is at the time when we are still reeling from the leaking of maths paper 2. We had hardly recovered from the shock of that leak. And we are saying as to Umalusi, this continuing trend of paper leaks does not augur well for the writing of the 2020 National Senior Certificate Examinations that are administered by the Department of Basic Education. We hope that the investigating task team established by the Department of Basic Education together with the Hawks will soon get to the bottom of these paper leaks and bring those who are responsible to book. Heads of all those who are involved must roll, and justice must take its course. In the meantime, Umalusi Council is still waiting for a formal report from the Department of Basic Education regarding the recent leak of physical science paper 2. Therefore, while the investigations are continuing, Umalusi cannot comment on the finer details of the leak, except that we strongly condemn all forms of cheating in the writing of national examinations, including the leaking of question papers. Such fraudulent activities have the potential to compromise the integrity of national examinations. We, as an organization entrusted with quality assurance, we remain committed to protecting the integrity and credibility of examinations administered by all assessment bodies by fully discharging our quality assurance mandate as a quality council for general and further education and training.
Now, Dr. Rakometsi, and I fully take what you said about commenting at this stage, but of course there are questions around the gaps in the security system around these national senior certificate exams. And do you believe that the modus operandi should be re-examined by the Department of Basic Education?
We have satisfied ourselves as Umalusi that the systems that the department is running are tamper-proof. What remains worrisome is the human element in the value chain. That whilst it is true that their systems seem to be perfect in terms of the security upgrades that they have, the security checks and balances, what remains a factor that is worrisome is the human element, because the human dynamics, you'd know that a person would be committed to a cause at one point and be tempted to undermine the very same cause in the next moment. That is what remains, worrisome for us, and we have to ask the department to look closely at that.
But what can one do about that human element? Because as you say, people are going to do what they're going to do. And already 2 papers have been leaked. After the first paper was leaked, that's maths paper 2, the department came out and reassured South Africa that, they would make sure that this doesn't happen again. But it has. Is it enough to say, Dr. Rakometsi, that investigations are ongoing and then just continue with the exam as is?
We have to do that, because if we preempt any comments for now, we could operate at cross purpose only to find that what we are pronouncing on is inaccurate. Getting back to the human element, I want to say the vetting of the people who work in our exam system, regular vetting is very important for us. Because I'm saying in the examinations context, trusting people is good, but control is the best. So we have to control through vetting and regular vetting at that. We have to look at the finances of the people. We have to look at the commitment of the people to South Africa as a country, and so forth and so on, through the national intelligence agencies.
Now, Dr. Rakometsi, some experts are actually saying that those 2 leaked papers should be rewritten. What's your reaction as Umalusi to that?
Umalusi is not able to pronounce, like I said, because at the moment we are still busy with preliminary investigations with the Department of Basic Education. Umalusi will only be able to pronounce on its position once you have received a full report, because trying to give the direction now will be preempting the outcome of the final report and its recommendations.
Fair enough, but the integrity of the exam is obviously being drawn into question now, because if we've already had 2 leaks, what happens if there were to be a 3rd leak, a 4th leak? How will that then impact on the integrity of the National Senior Certificate exam as a whole, Dr. Rakometsi?
What I want to reassure South Africans on is that the integrity of this examination is going to be protected by the quality assurance body, Umalusi. Umalusi is going to ensure that whatever final outcome we have is having integrity, and that we ensure that moving forward, we take precautionary measures, that we don't have a repeat of what we have had with mathematics and physical science. The department is already putting systems in place to ensure that we don't have a repeat of what we have had already with mathematics and physical science. But finally, at the point when Umalusi will be approving these results, rest assured it will be results that are valid, credible, and with integrity.
And meaning what exactly, Dr. Rakometsi? Because even now, there are learners already, just speaking to some matriculants, who feel that they would have already been disadvantaged because there is some doubt now that has crept into the validity of those results. So when you say that you will ensure that the integrity of those results are ensured, what does that mean? How do you go about doing that when the investigations are still ongoing?
What we mean is that we would have received the final report, and having received the final report, we would ensure that we give direction in a manner that will ensure that whatever outcome we have is credible. Let me just cite an example. If you find that the papers have been compromised and the whole system has been compromised, we are going to propose a rewrite. If you find that the leak and the compromising of the paper is sporadic and is not system-wide, we are going to look at those areas only. So that at the time when we pronounce, having received the final report, we'll make sure that whatever pronouncement protects the integrity of this examination. Umalusi, by the way, as a quality assurance body, is the vanguard of the system. We have to ensure that whatever we pronounce on, finally, not at this stage, at this stage, things are still preliminary. Finally, what you pronounce on should be the quality that the South Africans can trust.
Dr. Rakometsi, the Hawks have been tasked to investigate, but are there any time frames? Because, as you say, if it is found that the leaks were widespread, there will have to be a rewrite. So have there been any time frames assigned to the task that the Hawks have to investigate?
The Hawks, I can't determine how long they are going to investigate, but as for the Department of Basic Education, as Umalusi, we expect a report from them by the end of this month, the end of November. So come early December, Umalusi Council, under the leadership of Professor John Volming, is going to make a pronouncement to say whether these papers are going to be rewritten or not. And if they are going to be rewritten, how are they going to be rewritten? So by early December, with these examinations ending in the middle of December, we would have pronounced.
Now, Dr. Rakometsi, people have now turned to Umalusi to say, you know, the department at first, after the first leak, said that they would ensure that no further leaks happened. They did. And people are now looking to Umalusi to protect the integrity of these exams. So from your side, what can you actually do? If people are asking for intervention from Umalusi, what exactly is it that you can do as Umalusi, and what steps have you already taken from your side to intervene?
The steps that we can take can only be at the point when we would have received the final report. What we want to avoid is to sow confusion in the country by commenting finally on a piecemeal basis. We can only pronounce once we have received the final report, and the marching orders will be very clear in terms of how we are protecting the integrity of these examinations. And I've indicated that in early December, we should be able to do that.
And of course, as I indicated at the start of this interview, this is by no means new. We've had previous incidents in previous years of papers that were leaked, and it seemed as though we treat these as, particular occurrences at a particular point in time. Do you know what sort of sanction has been handed down to people who've been found guilty in the past, Dr. Rakometsi?
The people who have been found guilty in the past have faced arrests. I'm talking about the adults. The learners who participated in this chicanery have had to be suspended from the examination system for 3 years. And that is quite devastating for young people's lives when you have to suspend them from moving on with their lives for 3 years, for 2 years. So the sanctions are quite devastating. And I would want to persuade South Africans not to engage in this form of chicanery.
People have been arrested, but do we know whether they've actually served jail time for their transgressions, those who were found guilty in the past?
I have not been able to follow through up to that point, I must be honest. Arrests have been effected, but as to the conclusion of the matter, I must be honest with you, I've not been able to follow through.
And just as we conclude this, Dr. Rakometsi, the way forward, what's your word to South Africans in terms of assuring us about the integrity of these exams?
I want to reassure South Africans that by the beginning of December, we'll be able to pronounce and give direction on the papers that have leaked. And in February, after marking would have been completed, at the point when Professor John Volmink will be pronouncing on the integrity of these examinations, at the time when we'll be approving that the minister can release these results, we would have ensured that all the gaps in the systems have been closed and that the integrity, validity, and credibility of these examinations would be what we pronounce on.
Well, Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, thanks so much for your time. The CEO of Umalusi talking to us about the leaking of matric papers. As we know, 2 papers have already been leaked. It was first maths paper 2 and then physical science paper 2. And this, of course, has got people in a tiz worried about how the integrity of these national senior certificate exams will actually be protected. You heard from Umalusi, cautious at this point not to pronounce too much ahead of the conclusion of the investigation by the department and of course by the Hawks, and also perhaps worth following up on what happened to previous cases where people were found guilty of leaking matric exams. Has anyone actually served jail time after they were arrested for leaking those papers? Because it's easy to come down on the actual candidates because they are barred from writing for 2 or 3 years. But what about those, the adults at the center of this who actually leak or sell these papers? What is the sanction for them? Has anyone served jail time? We'll try and find out. Let's take a quick break before we bring you your 7 o'clock.